Yo, what is cracking, everyone? This is yo man, Politic the King with Politic the King TV. Some of you guys might know me from my gaming channel, Politic the King. Um, if you're new, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you're not new, what is cracking, my subscribers? Yeah, I did want to call you guys the King's Clan, but you guys aren't necessarily a part of that. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about today, is Daniel Prude and Black Death in America. Um, Unfortunately, another black man has died in this country, and it's really sad to see. Like, for me, this is not about outrage or protest or anything else like that. This is just, I wake up in the morning, I take a look at my phone, and somebody else that is quote unquote of African ancestry has died. Another human being has died, and that's sad. And there was just a shooting in Rochester where I think 2 people died and 14 people were injured. That was horrible too. It's not something that you want to see when you wake up in the morning. It's not something that you want to see. But I just want to talk about this real quick. And before I get into all this stuff I'm going to unpack right now, the first thing I want to say is that the police department shouldn't have covered this up. They should have released the footage. They should have released the video. I can understand why they wouldn't want to, because at the time there was like these big protests with George Floyd and et cetera, et cetera, and they were trying to sort of save face from this situation from coming out. But I mean, I don't. It might have made a difference. It probably wouldn't have made too much of a difference. And look, this is in New York, and New York is a blue state. There's nothing that we can really say about any of this that can justify this. So if you're right wing conservative, or if you're liberal or whatever, there's no justification for this. Like if there's if you're in a red state, something happens. Or you're in a blue state, something happens. Something's happening, y'all. We can't use our politics to try to make these situations any better or any worse than what they are. Okay. So anyway, you know, and you know, as far as black people, I want to speak to black people in this situation. For me, um, this, you know, there's an issue and a problem with our community. Um, Obviously, there are things going on that we need to address. There are things that we need to talk about, guys. And one of the things that I really think about in this situation was, I'm like, okay, if this guy would have been a white dude, a Mexican dude, any other race would have been any different Asian dude, and I don't think so. I just think that you have somebody high, you have somebody shouting and being belligerent, and I think the police sort of went into the situation saying, we got to protect ourselves. This guy could have AIDS or a disease or something like that. And they went into the situation, they put the cover over the guy's face. And I mean, even if you're going to have a cover over a guy's face like that, like a mask, wouldn't you want something where he could breathe or anything else like that? And I understand. I understand that they don't want nobody spitting on them or anybody biting them or anything else like that. But like the guy is high. If you give that situation 10, 15 more minutes, hopefully you'll let him tire out or whatever else it is like that, or maybe you tie his legs down or something like that, where he can't move. You tie his legs down and you try to get him up and try to get him onto a certain thing. Maybe it would have changed, a little bit, possibly. I think like with the police, maybe they could have took more time. Sometimes I think they're in a rush to arrest people and they want people to bend to their will. But honestly, man, when you have somebody that's high and then you block their breathing, there's a possibility that, yeah, they pass out or something like that happens. I don't know if necessarily they die, but, I mean, and there's so many different reasons why this guy could have died. He could have died of over overdose or other things like that. But, I mean, from what it seems like in the video, the guy died because he couldn't breathe. which is really sad because we got the Eric Garner, we got the George Floyd, and we look at those situations and we say, hey, could the officers could have took more care and concern for a human being's life? And I think that's what it was. But like, yeah, I mean, people try to say blue states are better or red states are better. I don't really know what state is better. You know what I'm saying? I think that this is an overall police issue, and there needs to be legislation for police to protect human life, and there should be different procedures adopted in order for that to happen. I don't necessarily think this is a race issue. I think it has to do with police officers and how we give them certain rights to do certain things to citizens. This could have been anybody. This could have been your mother or father or your uncle or your brother. And, we just want them treated in a way where, they'll be safe. And I understand that when you're high and belligerent, you're not going to be in the best state of mind to be able to listen to police. And, the biggest solution to that is don't be high or drunk or whatever. Now, we know these things are going to happen in society, right? So don't be high and drunk and belligerent where you get the police called on you. On the other end, the police officers should have enough care and concern and tact to make sure that they're not blocking somebody's airway or potentially endangering somebody's life. So I'm going to just move on from that, because that's my opinion on that as far as, like what we should be doing moving forward. And I'll probably talk about a little of that towards the end of the video. But I don't think that things would have changed if it would have been another race. I think they might have dealt with the situation the same way. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but, I think that it makes sense what the police officers were attempting to do, which was to protect themselves from any bites or scratches or bodily fluids that might get on to them, right? So what I want to talk about, guys, is, we still have issues in our community. Like, they had the war on drugs. We had civil rights movement, and I think we need a new movement for black people in this country. It seems like, with a lot of our people or some of our people are lost, man. Like, when I look at these situations, like, for instance, Terrence Crutcher, I live in the Tulsa area. Terrence Crutcher was high, and he wasn't necessarily obeying commands. He didn't have a weapon. He wasn't really a danger to anybody. He was just high, okay? He was just high. And I know he was bigger than the officers and bigger than Betty Shelby. I did not agree that she got off on that situation. I didn't agree with that at all, because at the end of the day, should have been at least manslaughter, or she should have lost her job, or she should not have been able to go back into the police force again. Terrence Crutcher was just high. And all the speculation that people have. And look, don't be high. Don't be driving and being high. You know what I'm saying? To the point where you put yourself in a situation like that. That's the first solution. But I think she should have tased him. The other police had tasers. She shot this man. She said she was in fear of her life. There was no reason. I don't think he didn't charge at them or anything else like that. So I don't believe Betty Shelby should have got off, like that was just horrible to me. But it just shows that, again, drugs. Okay, we have Terrence Crutcher, we have George Floyd, and we have Daniel Prude. They're all high on drugs. Are we going to talk about that? Are we going to talk about our culture as black people and how we have rappers that glorify drugs and craziness like that? I don't condone any of that mess. It's ridiculous. But people listen to the music and people listen to artists that talk about being drug dealers, that talk about glorifying this life. I mean, when I grew up, I was listening to Young Jeezy, and I remember Young Jeezy. And I like Young Jeezy. I thought he had a good story. And I think that for people like Young Jeezy, he grew up in an area where drugs were prevalent, and he felt like that was the only thing that he could do to make money, which I understand, but it's still wrong. And when you get money and when you get status, you should stop probably rapping about those things, and you should probably try to do something a little bit more positive, because God blessed you enough to get you out of that situation. And look, guys, people in our community, like, we can't look at our community like we're just flawless. We're not. There are people in our community that are going to choose the wrong thing. There are going to be people in our community that sell drugs. There are going to be people in our community that gangbang or do other types of crime and wrong. There are going to be those exceptions to our people. Like, there's always exceptions. There's white people that do things wrong, whether it's in the corporate ladder or whether it's in the streets or whether it's in the trailer parks. There are going to be people that do wrong. There are people that are going to get high on drugs or whatever. So there's always going to be that exception to the rule. But how we treat those people and how we deal with those people should be different. You know, um, like, in our communities, man, we really have to, start, you know, and when I say calling the police and reporting crime, we should report crime. We shouldn't want drugs in our community. We shouldn't want people all high and on, like, heroin and PCP and stuff like that. Like, when we see these things, we should report them and try to get those things out of our communities. And if that means snitching, people don't like snitching, we should snitch. We should be snitching and telling on people that are bringing drugs in our community, that affecting our sons and daughters in our communities, that are having, I mean, come on, man. If you take out drugs in most of these situations, George Floyd, Terrence Crutcher, maybe Daniel Prude, there would be no police call because they would be in right mind, right? And there would be no reason for them to call the police. But since there are drugs involved, they couldn't think correctly. And then they get put into a situation where their life can be endangered. So we got to talk about those things, guys. It's not just the police that we have to deal with. We have to be self-aware and we have to be able to say, you know what? Hey, there's some prevention that can happen in the situation. If the police are not called, there's no way there could be a police encounter where somebody can get killed. We got to take that responsibility in our communities. So even though I do think this death is wrong and the police covered it as wrong, I have to look at the other side of it and say we need to get drugs and things out of our culture and our community. And just like I said, talking about rappers that condone selling drugs and gangbanging lifestyle and being thugs, like, it's not cool. It's not cool, man. When I grew up in Southern California, I was around gangs. And I sort of had a mentality. I sort of had like a territorial mentality growing up in California. I knew where to go and where not to go. And I knew where I was from. And I had a little bit of pride in that. And yeah, man, that could have went to a whole different direction. Luckily I moved to Atlanta. And Atlanta wasn't as Californian. So I just took the California with me. But, in California, we sort of have a rule, with the gangster stuff at least, where it's just like, if you don't bother me, I'm not going to bother you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to go to a blood neighborhood when I'm a Crip just to cause problems. Or I'm not going to go to the Spanish neighborhood just to cause problems, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I stay in my lane, and if a Mexican dude steps to me, then I'll deal with them. But for the most part, I'm not going to go seeking problems with somebody else because there's no point. I mean, things are so hostile already. And in California, if you have beef with somebody, it's real. Okay, it's real. It's a real thing. So it's just like when you have a problem, you want it to be a real problem. So but the culture and the gang banging and all that other stuff, it's just really not good. And I grew up with the mentality because of music and culture that I was supposed to be a certain way. And luckily, when I got into rap music and stuff like that, it was more of like the battle rap and stuff like that, which has its negatives. But, for the most part, nobody was getting killed and stuff like that. Like, I never had that in my mind where I would have to kill somebody or whatever. But then I could see myself being put in different situations that if I was tested, I probably would have pulled the trigger, or I probably would have beat somebody up, or I probably would hit that lick or whatever just to prove myself. And we need to get that out of our culture, guys. As you guys know, probably on this channel, I'm a Christian and I believe in God. I also believe that, black people are descendants of of the Hebrews or whatever, and that we're some of the lost tribe of Israel. And one of the things that I look at in this country is that we've made it through so much. We've made it through so much. Okay, we made it through Civil War. We made it through slave ships. We made it through civil rights. We have gotten somewhere. And yes, it was through protest and legislation and all of these things. And they are good. Sometimes you got to protest in order to get change. I don't believe in people destroying people's property and stuff like that, but I do believe that protest is the way to go. Protest is the American way. Okay. Whether you're a right wing, person, whether you're a Democratic person, whether you're LGBT community, whether you're Christian, and like you have to advocate for your stuff and you have to put it on the front street in order for politicians to do something about it. So I think protest is necessary. But again, going back to what we made it through, yeah, it was God who allowed civil rights to pass. It was God that put a fire under the black community. It was God that had Martin Luther King a pastor and Malcolm X technically a pastor, of the Islamic community, the black Islamic community, and religious leaders that had to stand up and fight for our rights. And now, civil rights validated rights for everybody in America. So if you're discriminated for being white or Mexican or Christian or gay, you can get justice for being discriminated against. So that was a big move. I think civil rights validated America. But, on the other hand, we've made it through so much, and we have to be so thankful to God that we made it through. I mean, we could still be dealing with civil rights nowadays if things would have turned out differently. Or we still could be dealing with a lot of discrimination that we were dealing with before. And I'm not one of those people that say like America's the greatest country. America's good. It's a good country, and I love America, and I'm proud to be a citizen of America. But America has been very horrible to our people, whether it's Republican or Democrat. And I always say it's not really the problem I have with liberalism or conservatism. It was the problem that we had with racism and discrimination and white people being discriminative towards us and being bullies towards us. That was the problem. It's not politics. It was discrimination. It was people choosing to be biased and people choosing to keep us down because they wanted us to be inferior and they wanted them to be superior. So as far as like, white superiority and privilege, yeah, that was a thing, guys. And it was a mentality because people didn't want, and it's not just with black people. I want to say that, they had a Chinese Exclusion Act in California that kept Chinese people from getting jobs because they didn't want to take jobs from the white American people or whatever. All types of stuff. They were scared when blacks were released that they were going to get their job. So it was all a power trip and, trying to stay on top in a racial way in order to keep other people down, So, I think the next revolution that needs to happen within the black community, guys, is that we need to get back to God, okay? And that's the truth. Now, I'm not saying that you have to adopt American Christian values or anything else like that, because even though I go to church and I love my churches, and a lot of my churches, they do have white pastors and they're great men or whatever, I do not subscribe to all the ideologies of white America or white Christian America and et cetera, because I am a black man and I have lived my life as a black man. God put me in the skin, so I accept who I am. But at the same time, I do accept my brothers of different races if they believe in God and they believe in righteousness and they believe in truth. And we're supposed to be that like that because, I don't think in heaven we're going to have any race or anything else like that. So we do have to look beyond it. But on this earth, we are who we are. And we should be supporting each other. We should be speaking out against injustice. All of us as a collective. But as our community, we need to return back to God, guys. If it's true, if the truth is that we're descendants from Israel and that we were put in slave ships for this country and all this stuff happened for a reason, I think God allowed for us to be, and He did allow for us to be enslaved and discriminated against, and the atrocities that happened to us, in order to preserve us, because God knew this country was going to be what it is. But we need to return back to God, guys. A lot of these situations that people are living a righteous life, or people are seeking after the Lord, and seeking to live for Him and by Him, we wouldn't be dealing with these situations. We wouldn't be dealing with these problems. And, unfortunately, the other thing about the black community is that, okay, we got our civil rights and we're equal, but what now? What's the next step? What, to be successful, to have money, to have businesses, to be on equal footing with white people and economically? I don't think that's the goal, you know. I mean, it's great to have money and it's great to have businesses and it's great to have success. But does that mean we're really successful just because we have things? No, black people, we have a lot of pride in our culture. We have a lot of pride in our accomplishments. We have a pride in the things we do, and I think we are a wonderful race. I think we represent black people or African people across the world. People look to us for hip hop and for this and for that and how to get down. And we have something great here in America where we can establish businesses and we can be free to do certain things. And, we represent the whole world. So I think that, like God put us in this position for a reason. And I think that we have to be thankful for what God got us through. And we need to give the glory and honor to Him for civil rights and for all the things that we were able to get. And we need to change, man, because, honestly, just in conclusion, and I know I probably ran it for a while, but, there could be another situation tomorrow where a black guy gets killed by police because he was high or something crazy. And it's not about that situation happening. It's about whether we're going to get justice or not for it. So if we really want permanent change in this situation, I think that first we have to change ourselves. So, not allowing drugs in our communities, not supporting culture that is going to destroy us. And, I could have a whole video on that alone, not just the drug, rappers and stuff like that, but, how we treat each other, how men and women relationships have in the black community, about what we glorify and what we seek after, and the vainness of some of the things that we do. I mean, I have a thing, but change our culture. And ultimately, I think it's the last point is just returning back to God and being righteous, and we have to support people that do righteous things. So I'll probably have another video on some political stuff. I am going to do one on the election. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I would love to hear from you, hear your opinions and your facts. And I know there's probably going to be a lot of controversial people, but I would love to hear it. We need to have these conversations, guys, because, we need to grow. And I'm going to keep doing these videos because I want people to have an understanding of the truth. Rest in peace, Daniel Prude. Unfortunately, brother, the drugs, had you acting crazy, and the police did not treat you well. And I wish you wouldn't have been on drugs, man. People are going to have breakdowns and mental emergencies, and that's true. Right? It's very true. That could happen to any race of people. But what we're more concerned about is whether the person was treated with enough tact and care to understand, hey, well, this person's not in their right mind. Let's try to take our time with this, and I guess not put a bag over the guy's head, or even if you put a bag over the guy's head, once he starts, having It looks like he's not breathing. Take the mask off so he can breathe. I don't know, guys. I just don't know. But I do know that Daniel had it in him, maybe not to do drugs or to go into a drug treatment program or to get some type of help. We have to look at those options as well, because that's self prevention. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not for police to be the example for how we live, or to make us do anything. They're really there to enforce the laws, guys. They're really there to enforce the laws, to put people in custody, to restrain people that aren't necessarily following the law, etc., etc., and to give people their day in court. They're not here to be superheroes for us, and because we don't know who these people are, so there should be caution on both sides. And the first bit of caution I would always say is that I control, like if I get in my car, I control the speed. So if I'm not breaking the speed limit, I can't get pulled over for breaking the speed limit. If my tail light goes out, I have the authority to fix it, right? Or if my insurance is dead, then I don't drive until I get new insurance. So, or if I'm high on drugs, right, then I stay at home and I freak out at home in the privacy of my own home. I do not, wild out around people where they can call the police on me. We have to take responsibility, guys. So I'm out. You guys take it easy, and may God bless you. Peace.